Hey parents, if you couldn't make it to the device rollout meeting tonight at open house, we'd ask you to watch this brief video and answer the questions. Hit submit when you're done. To begin with, we get a lot of questions about why do I have to attend this meeting and really why are they taking the iPads home? So first of all, addressing the meeting part or why do I have to watch this video, we think it's important that the district has made an investment in the technology and we want to make sure that the technology is being used appropriately, and that's a partnership with parents. And so we want to communicate that what the school expectations are and so that you can follow through with those at home. Why are they using iPads at all? Well, I asked that same question for teachers as to why might they take the iPads home, and they consider that a continuation of the learning at home. And so it might be something where a student is finishing something they started at school, or it might be as part of a project. So for example, they're filming something or using their camera to create a project. Maybe they're doing some skill practice like splash math or stack the states, and so they can continue their learning outside of the classroom. Each teacher has their own set of expectations. So if you are talking to other parents and what they may be seeing from their son or daughter with the use of their iPad, it can certainly differ from teacher to teacher as far as how they use them and when the iPad goes home. Each student will receive an iPad Air. The fifth grade is getting their same iPad as last year, so if it's not in real great condition, they know why. And the fourth grade iPads were handed down from last year's eighth grade. Those fourth graders, if you get your iPad and you see some substantial damage to it at all, please notify your teacher and so that we can make note of that right away. On the back of the iPad, you'll see that they're labeled appropriately so they know whose they are, and you're going to see a little stylus over there. The styluses are not coming home with students. Most teachers have them available in their classroom, but they weren't something that we thought were going to hold up if they went home. In addition, there's a little plastic stand on the back. If a student presses down on the iPad, that stand can break, so be careful of that. In addition, there's a really handy strap on the back, and that's a great way for students to put their hands in there when they're carrying it, so it secures it a little bit more as they are moving through the hallways. In addition, there's a three-piece set of the power cords, and students will be responsible for all of those and making sure that they turn those in at the end of the year. Each of the power blocks is also labeled with the student's name so they can identify them in the classroom. And we do have some guidelines for care and expectation. First of all, those wires can be pretty fragile, so avoid putting them in furniture, wetting them excessively, those kinds of things. And for some reason, we're not really sure why, but pets really like these cords. So if you have animals, for the safety of the devices as well as your pets, please keep them out of the reach of any of your pets. Also, please avoid extreme temperatures. A super cold car or a super hot car are things to avoid with the iPad. If by chance your iPad should get really warm or really cold, please bring it back up to room temperature before you try and start it. Students are encouraged to bring back their iPads 100% charged if they take them home. As a matter of fact, some teachers are even having the power cords go home, and so that if the student forgets to charge, they won't be able to use their iPad at school because it's not charged and they have no power cords. Obviously, cleanliness is a big deal when you talk about technology, so we ask students to have clean hands, and parents, if you see your child going to use the iPad and they maybe need to go wash their hands first, please encourage that. Also consider the workspace. Maybe they're going to go work at the kitchen table, and that kitchen table should be wiped off first before they go to use their technology. Keep an eye out for those kinds of things. Probably one of the major things that we see with any of our technology is the liquids being spilled on them. So we encourage you to keep the iPads away from the dinner table and any kind of a food or beverage so that they don't accidentally get spilled on. When you're packing your backpack, students should try to keep anything that might be wet or any kind of a liquid separate from the iPad. So that includes those snowy boots or wet snow pants or water bottle. And also, when you're packing that iPad, make sure that it doesn't get crammed on the bottom and then you shove all of those books on top. We want to protect it a little bit better. We know those iPads are going to get dirty, so use a nice soft cloth to clean those off. And if you're using any kind of a spray, make sure that you spray the cloth and not the device. finally, try to avoid any kind of cleaners that have any kind of alcohol in them or bleach in them. That can damage some of the materials in the case itself. When students are walking through the halls, we use the terminology hug your iPad. And if you notice, this particular person has their hands slid in there and then they're kind of hugging that iPad close to their body rather than swinging it by their side. This is just going to protect it a whole lot better. So think about that around the house too, to make sure that how they're carrying their iPad is protecting it. We also encourage the students to keep their iPads with them, whether they're inside of school or outside of school. We have had instances where iPads have been stolen. So whether a family's been on vacation and it was stolen out of their car, or at a dance class and it was stolen out of the bag, insurance does not cover a theft. So be sure that you keep track of it, because otherwise you'll be responsible for paying for replacing the device. If an iPad becomes lost or any part of the iPad becomes lost, always check with your teacher and then retrace your steps to try and find that lost device. We have nice identifying stickers on the back of our iPads, and we really need those on there, so we encourage students not to be picking at them so that they would come off. And the same with down at the home button, there's a little rubber piece down there that sometimes students like to play with, and again, that can cause the cover not to fit very well, so we want to avoid that part of it. The cases do need to be on at all times. Students are not allowed to remove the cases from their iPads. The App Store is closed for students, and that's because they're going to be downloading apps they need from something called self-service. And we want to use these iPads for educational purposes, so we don't want to fill them with all kinds of games. Instead, we need to use them for the apps that teachers have chosen. We talked about having your iPad fully charged, and one way to save on some battery is to close some apps. So we encourage you to push that home button and see what apps are open, and then do a swipe up to actually quit those apps. Storage can also be an issue, and students like to take pictures and video. However, that's going to eat up a lot of storage, and they're going to run out of room in order to do their own work. So we will teach students how to store on Google Drive. We know they don't like to delete things, so storing on Google Drive will free up storage space for students. Every student also gets a Gmail account starting in 4th grade, and with this account they keep that through their senior year. And one of the recommendations we have, which you will hear again and again, is that the school email is for school business and not for personal, so keep that in mind. Teachers also use something called Edmodo, and Edmodo is a way for teachers to communicate with their students, and they can turn in assignments and things like that. It does have a Facebook appearance, so if your son or daughter does not have Facebook yet and you're kind of wondering, hey, how did you do that? It may be their Edmodo account. Parents can create accounts too, so as teachers get going in this and you want to create an account, we can get you more information on that part of it. Safety is always a concern of ours, and these iPads are filtered at school. By law, they have to be. Now, filters are not 100% perfect. Sometimes things get through a filter that can not be something we want our children to be looking at. Now, at home, there is no filter. The school does not filter it at home. So that is the family's responsibility. So some tips we have for you, we have encouraged you to have the student use the device in a family area, out in the public, and not in their bedroom areas. Also, you can check with your internet provider. They may have some security that you can put on through your own internet provider. And then also I encourage you to check your history. And that's done by, if you're in a browser like Safari and you click on this little book icon in the upper left-hand corner, it opens up this panel, and underneath that you can see the word history. And then from there, it shows you all of the sites that your son or daughter has visited so that you can check out where they've been. If this happens to be blank all the time, you may want to question that, because that would be suspicious. Keep in mind that this technology that we offer our students is a partnership between the school, the parents, and our students. We need to work together on that, and we all have responsibilities. So as a school, again, we offer the technology, but we also filter at school, and then we also offer curriculum, things like Common Sense Media and Digital Passport, that teach students how to be good digital citizens. And so we're doing our part to educate them on how to be good digital citizens. As parents, we ask you to be aware, know what your child is doing on his or her iPad. It should be visible. Like I said, check the history, those kinds of things. Also, keep in mind that since we're in a partnership with this together, if things maybe aren't going so well at home and you need that iPad to stay at school, that can certainly be communicated with the teacher or our principal, and so that that iPad could stay at school. That's a good motivator for some students to, maybe change behaviors because then they can have access to their iPad again. And students, we look at their responsibilities as knowing what's the right time and the right place to be using this device. If I'm supposed to be doing this for school right now, am I doing that or am I doing something else? And remember, these iPads are for educational purposes first and entertainment value as a secondary kind of thing. Please note that we do have a device protection plan, and as a parent, you have a choice to opt out, which means that if there's any damage to the device, you have 100% responsibility. Otherwise, you can choose the insurance. The insurance is a $25 fee for the year. And if something should happen to the device, the very first time, there's no additional cost. It's completely covered. The second time damage could occur, there is a $50 deductible. So for example, a screen breaks, and a screen can be over $100 to replace a cracked screen. So that if it happened the first time, there would be no cost if you had insurance. If it happened a second time, there would be a $50 deductible charge, and the remainder would be covered by the district. So there is paperwork that hopefully you can get access to through the school. You need to make sure that you have signed the acceptable use agreement, and your child needs to sign that as well. And then your insurance choice, whether you're going to opt out or accept the insurance, and if you're accepting the insurance, then making payment for that. We hope this is a great school year, and we feel like this technology can add to the learning for our students, and together we can make it a great school year.